Discover the incredible journey of a black maid who transformed millionaire twins' lives forever. Clara woke before the sun, a routine etched into the fabric of her existence. The air was crisp and quiet, perfect for savoring the fleeting moments of solitude before the world awakened. She slipped on her worn shoes, each step a testament to the struggle and aspirations that defined her life as a single mother. The kitchen filled with the smell of coffee as she prepared breakfast for her 2 children, eyes bright with hope. Each plate set before them represented a fragment of her dream, an education that would one day grant them freedom from the grip of financial struggle. In the back of her mind, Clara carried the burden of her upbringing, a weight that seemed heavy at times but ultimately fueled her relentless drive. "You will have more," she whispered to her children, her heart full. With each passing day, she juggled 3 jobs, determined to piece together a future where her kids could soar high above the limitations placed on her. That day brought an unexpected opportunity: a job with Alex and Jamie, identical twins with wealth that seemed insurmountable. As she walked into their sprawling mansion, the stark contrast hit her like a cold splash of water. A marble entryway glistened, luxury oozing from every corner. But beneath the surface, Clara sensed an emptiness, a disconnection that wrapped around the twins like a thick fog. They were surrounded by treasures, yet their lonely gazes hinted at an unseen weight, a longing for connection that their golden frames couldn't provide. As the days turned into weeks, Clara's warmth gradually chipped away at the ice encasing their hearts. She found herself sharing tales of resilience, stories that sparked light in their eyes. "You have to chase your dreams," she urged, the sincerity in her voice softening their inherited biases. It was a bond forming, forged in the fires of vulnerability and understanding. Just as they delved deeper into a shared understanding, darkness came crashing in. A report on economic inequality flashed across the screen one evening. The weight of their privilege became unbearable, the stress of their family's legacy casting shadows over the fragile bond Clara had built. Arguments erupted at dinner tables, emotions running high. Clara felt the emotional ripple, like a distant storm brewing on the horizon. "Look," Clara said, voice steady but eyes filled with empathy, "true value isn't about how much you have. It's understanding others, living authentically." A fire ignited in the twins, they felt the stirrings of fear and determination battling within them. Clara stood strong, a figure of resilience in the face of their challenges. Would they find a way to listen to her, to redefine their paths? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed, and tensions rose like waves crashing against cliffs. Clara felt the churning of the twins' emotional tides, their desire to break free from the constraints imposed by their wealth now battling fear of family disapproval. Would they confront their truth, or retreat back to the safety of privilege? Clara had ignited a spark, but would they have the courage to let it blaze? As night fell, Clara's heart raced, the emotional stakes higher than ever. In that moment of uncertainty, she knew she had become not just a maid but a catalyst for change. What would be the twins' decision? The answer lay just beyond the horizon. The morning light spilled through the grand windows, illuminating the grandeur of the mansion, yet Clara felt the heaviness in her heart. It was a beautiful day outside, but within those walls, the atmosphere was thick with unresolved tension. She moved quietly through the kitchen, preparing breakfast, each clatter of pots echoing the turmoil she sensed between Alex and Jamie. When they appeared at the table, their faces were drawn, shadows tracing their features. The cheerful chatter she had come to relish was replaced by a thick silence. Clara glanced at them, her heart clenching. They were no longer just the twins who had lived a life filled with privilege but young men grappling with their identities and values. "Morning," she said softly, breaking the unease that hung in the air. They barely acknowledged her. After a moment, Clara spoke again. I know things feel heavy right now. But remember, storms pass. Growth comes after the rain. She looked into their eyes, willing them to see not just her but the possibility of change. Alex shifted in his seat, his fingers fidgeting nervously. I don't know how to feel about all of this, he confessed, his voice shaky. It's like everything we thought was right suddenly seems so wrong. Jamie nodded, staring at his untouched plate. We've had everything handed to us, but what does that mean if we're ignoring what's happening around us? The world isn't just our playground. It feels selfish. Clara took a deep breath, feeling a surge of hope mixed with apprehension. You can change that. You each have the power to make a difference. But it requires understanding and courage. Courage? Alex echoed, a hint of disbelief in his voice. Courage to do what? Throw away everything we've known? No. Clara shook her head, passion rising in her chest. Courage to confront it. To use your privilege for something greater. You didn't choose your legacy, but you can choose how you respond to it. Jamie looked up, curiosity flickering in his eyes. What if we wanted to involve ourselves more in the community? But how? We don't know where to start. That's where bravery lies, Clara replied, her heart racing at their openness. Engage with those you've overlooked. Seek understanding. You might find that the most profound lessons come from the most unexpected places. Yet, as those words hung in the air, Clara felt fear creeping in. She knew she could inspire change, but could they actually follow through? Would their families allow such a transformation? Tension crackled like static, anticipation swelling between them. Would they rise to the challenge, or would fear snuff out the light she had ignited? As Clara began to serve breakfast, her heart ached with the weight of hope. She hoped the twins would not just hear her words but embrace them, transform their desires into action. Suddenly, the sound of an incoming text broke the reverie. It was a news alert. Clara glanced at the screen. Her heart sank. Guys, there's been a protest downtown. It's about economic inequality, she said, feeling the air turn electric. What? Now? Alex exclaimed, his brow furrowing in thought. We should go right. We should see it, shouldn't we? A flicker of determination sparked in Clara's chest. If this moment moves you, then yes. It's a step toward understanding. As they hurriedly finished their breakfast, Clara could feel the wheels turning in the twins' minds. But was this the change they truly wanted? Would they be brave enough to step out into a world that both fascinated and frightened them? Together, they raced towards a journey that could redefine everything they thought they knew. Would they see what lay beyond their gated existence? Clara could only hope. The journey had begun, and she prayed it would lead them to the purpose she believed they could find. But what awaited them outside those walls? Would they find their voices in a world full of noise? As they rushed out of the mansion, the air outside felt electric, charged with both anticipation and anxiety. Clara's heart raced. What if this was the moment that changed everything? She couldn't help but glance at the twins, their expressions a mix of uncertainty and excitement. They were stepping into a new world together, and she felt a surge of pride for them. The street buzzed with a collective energy that was infectious. People filled the sidewalks, carrying signs and chanting slogans. The intensity of voices melded into a powerful chorus, one that called for change and demanded attention. Alex and Jamie exchanged glances, their nerves palpable. Clara noticed a hint of resolve forming in their expressions. What do we do now? Jamie asked, his voice barely audible over the commotion. Observe. Listen, Clara replied, nudging them forward. This is where you can learn. Engage with what's happening. As they moved closer to the gathering crowd, Clara felt the weight of their privilege more than ever. The twins were used to being insulated, sheltered from the struggles surrounding them. But here, standing amongst such passionate voices, the stark realities of life shimmered before them. They found a spot on the edge of the crowd, where the actions of the protesters unfolded in front of them. Signs read justice for all and economic equality now. There was a palpable sense of urgency in the air, creating a tapestry of emotions from anger to hope. Clara watched as Alex leaned in, his brow furrowing as he read the signs. This isn't just a political issue, it's personal. His voice broke slightly, as though the truth was slowly seeping in. Yes, Clara urged him, her heart swelling. These are people fighting for their stories to be heard. Their lives matter too. Jamie's gaze drifted beyond the signs and into the faces of the protesters. I've never seen anything like this, he whispered. The raw emotion in the crowd was stirring something deep within him. Clara felt a wave of relief mixed with fear. They were beginning to see, but would they realize the stark difference between their everyday lives and the realities these demonstrators faced? Would they feel compelled to act upon this newfound understanding? The shouts grew louder, and the energy intensified. A speaker took to the makeshift stage, his voice booming through the loudspeaker. Today, we stand for those who've been silenced. Together, we can make a change. The crowd erupted into cheers, their collective spirit igniting flames of determination. Clara turned to the twins, searching their faces for any flicker of recognition. Alex nodded, determination etched into his features. I want to help, he declared, his voice resolute. Jamie glanced at Clara, hesitating for a moment before his resolve gathered strength. Me too. But how? Gratitude washed over Clara. It starts with listening. But it doesn't stop there. You have to act. As the speaker encouraged the crowd to join a march to the city hall, Clara felt her heart race with possibilities. The twins were ready to take a step beyond their privilege. Yet, shadows of fear still loomed. Clara, what if it gets overwhelming? Alex asked, vulnerability slipping through his bravado. Then you lean on each other, she replied, her voice steady. You're not alone in this journey. And just like that, they stepped onto the path that would change their lives forever. With every step into the sea of voices and signs, Clara felt the walls they had built around themselves start to crumble. But in the back of her mind, doubt crept in. What if they couldn't handle the weight of this new world? As they marched, an escalating sense of urgency rose around them. The weight of their mission began to settle in. Would they stay true to their commitment, or would doubt turn them back? The protest pulsed with life, something vast and unstoppable. But as the march unwound through the streets, chaos loomed. A sudden shout rang out amid the crowd, causing Clara's heart to drop. What was happening? Would they be prepared for what came next? The shout sliced through the air like a blade, shocking Clara. Her instincts kicked in as she instinctively grabbed both Alex and Jamie's hands. They stood still, surrounded by a sea of agitated bodies, their wide eyes trying to figure out what had just happened. What was that? Alex whispered, his voice trembling slightly. Clara scanned the crowd, her heart thumping in her chest. I don't know. But let's stay close together, she responded, squeezing their hands tighter. The energy shifted, and apprehension filled the air as people began moving in different directions, some rushing forward while others pulled back, uncertain. In the distance, a figure loomed. The police had arrived. The sight sent a chill up Clara's spine. She had hoped this gathering would be a peaceful exchange of ideas, a loud but harmonious declaration of action for change. But now, with the grim presence of officers multiplying, the atmosphere felt like a fever pitch waiting to burst. Shouldn't we go? Jamie asked, pulling slightly against Clara's grasp. Maybe we should just head back. Clara shook her head firmly. No. This is important. But we need to stay calm and aware. She fought against the tightening knot of fear in her stomach. This is about more than us. Before they could move, a piercing scream echoed through the crowd. Someone had stumbled, tripping over the makeshift barricade. Clara felt the tension ripple through the gathering. Panic spread like wildfire, and she caught sight of a woman on the ground, face twisted in distress. A group rushed to her side, creating a barrier of bodies. The sound of chants grew louder as the speaker urged unity. Stand strong. We are not afraid. But Clara felt the encroaching chaos, an undercurrent of anger bubbling just beneath the surface. What if we get hurt? Alex's voice was a mere whisper, consumed by noise and anxieties. Clara turned to him, looking deep into his eyes. We won T, as long as we stick together. Trust me. She hoped her certainty would stem the tide of fear washing over them. The escalating tension had a life of its own, but it was in their hands to weather the storm. As they pressed forward again, Clara felt a mix of trepidation and exhilaration. Each step felt heavy, echoes of what they were witnessing staining her thoughts. This was no longer a mere observation, it was an emotional baptism into a reality they had previously only skimmed the surface of. Then, unexpectedly, she saw Jamie lift his voice to join a nearby chant. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. His enthusiasm caught her off guard. He had crossed a threshold, their Jamie entering a realm she had hoped he'd embrace. I want to help. He yelled, his voice breaking through the din, drawing glances from others nearby. It was more than just words, it was a commitment, a shift. Clara felt a swell of pride in her chest, even as danger lingered close by, but just as hope flickered, an impending eruption loomed behind them. A wall of police began to surge forward, shields raised. The protesters in front of Clara turned in alarm, bodies moving like rapid waves fleeing a storm. Clara's heart raced again, pounding louder than ever. Run! Someone shouted. Fear gripped Clara as the moment stretched. People clutched at each other, and the energy turned into a chaotic whirlpool. Stick together! Clara yelled, grappling with her grip on the twins. Follow me! As they began to move against the tide, the reality of what they had entered settled in. This was just about witnessing change, it was about facing the storm head-on. Would they rise to the occasion? In their hearts, Clara hoped they would realize that sometimes, in the face of fear, true strength was found, but just as they reached the edge of the chaos, Clara sensed a wrongful gaze lingering on them. It sent a shiver down her spine. Someone was watching. Why? Was it caution or something darker? She didn't know, but now it felt like the stakes were rising, veering dangerously close to an unknown fate. What would unfold next? Clara's breath caught, and she felt the weight of the moment. Would they stand strong together or succumb to the gathering storm? The thrumming chaos erupted around Clara as they tore through the crowd, feet pounding against the pavement. The chants of defiance morphed into frightened whispers as the police loomed ever closer, their shadows stretching long and menacing. The urgent push and pull of the protest felt like an unending tide, sweeping them along with relentless force. Clara! Wait! Alex's voice cut sharply through the clamor, breaking her concentration. She turned just in time to see him losing his footing in the chaotic sea of bodies. No! With a surge of adrenaline, Clara wove her way back, fumbling to grasp Alex's hand once more, her heart racing. She felt the panic swelling in his chest, reflected in his frantic eyes. Keep moving. We can't stop. She urged, shooting a glance back at the wall of police advancing steadily, shields raised and batons ready. The very air felt charged, like a storm poised to break. Suddenly, Jamie's grip slipped from her other hand. He took a step back, eyes wide with fear. Clara! Closing the distance, she darted toward him, her pulse thrumming in unison with the energy around them. I'm here. Stick close. She rallied the courage she found deep within, pushing against the rising tide of uncertainty. But in that moment, the world seemed to halt. Clara's gaze locked with Jamie's, and she saw something in his eyes: fear, yes, but also resolve. I don't want to be afraid anymore, he said, each word tinged with fierce determination. A strange warmth blossomed in her chest, whispering affirmation. Then let us not be. She stretched her hand, and he grabbed hold tightly, their fingers entwined like lifelines. As they surged through the mass of bodies, Clara caught snippets of conversation swirling around her, fragments of hope and anxiety intermingling. "We have to stand up. Don't look back." The energy was electric, a reminder of the collective force they represented. It fueled her journey forward, then suddenly, a loud crash echoed, silencing the crowd momentarily. Clara turned instinctively, her heart sinking. Someone had thrown a bottle, a sharp reminder of the fragile line between protest and violence. The police responded, advancing with greater urgency, their uniforms like an impenetrable barrier. She could feel the rising tension, an authentic fear blooming among the protesters. "Where do we go?" Jamie's voice shook, finding its way to her through the chaos. "There." Clara pointed toward a narrow alleyway just ahead. It beckoned like a safe haven, distant from the fray yet within reach. "Let us move." With another heave, they plunged into the opening. The darkness felt ominous, but it also offered concealment. They navigated the narrow space, hearts racing together in solidarity, the muffled shouts of the crowd fading into the background. Panting, Clara leaned against the cool, jagged brick wall of the alley. They huddled together, faces flushed with urgency and fear. "Are we safe?" Alex asked, glancing back towards the entrance as if the police might follow. "For now," Clara replied, wiping her brow. "But we can't stay here long. We need to find a way to help." In the flickering shadows, courage flickered with uncertainty. They had taken a bold step into the storm, but would they find a path through it or become lost in the chaos? Suddenly, amid their breaths, a distant commotion broke the silence, the unmistakable clash of voices, rising and falling in a desperate harmony. Clara listened, her heart pounding anew. This wasn't over. As the weight of the moment settled, a flicker of hope ignited within her. They had found strength in each other before. Could they find it again? Steeling herself for what lay ahead, Clara looked to the twins, their eyes brimming with emotion. "Ready?" But before they could respond, a loud crash echoed from the street beyond, clubbing the air with urgency. The tangled web of fear and determination swirled anew in Clara's mind. What new danger awaited just outside their sanctuary? What choices lay ahead? Clara's heart raced as the crash rumbled again, sending splinters of fear through her bones. The alley felt like a lifeboat caught in a tempest, and they were adrift. She shifted her gaze from Alex to Jamie, who was visibly trembling now, his knuckles white as he clutched her hand like it was a lifeline. "We should move," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can't just sit here." The urgency pulled at her insides, a relentless reminder that the world outside was shifting and morphing into chaos. "Where?" Jamie asked, his eyes wide with uncertainty. "We can't just walk back out into, whatever that is." Clara pressed her lips together, searching for options that didn't exist. The voices outside had intensified, rising with a wave of anger that echoed off the damp brick walls. Somewhere, she could hear the shouts of protesters mixing with the booming orders of police, a discordant symphony of struggle and despair. "We can't go back, but we can't stay here either," Alex said, his voice steadier than Clara felt. "I saw a door at the end of this alley when we came in. Maybe it leads somewhere safe." "Then we go." Clara nodded, her resolve solidifying. The adrenaline coursing through her veins was a predictable ally in fears unknown. They were in it together. They stumbled deeper into the alley, their footsteps muffled against the ground. Clara led the way, using every ounce of strength to push back against the gnawing dread. With each step, she felt their fear blending into determination, a shared fuel that ran thicker than blood. Coming upon the door, she pressed her palms against the cool metal. "On three," she said, glancing back at Alex and Jamie who stood shoulder to shoulder behind her. 1, 2, 3. With a hard shove, the door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room littered with old crates and dust. Clara hesitated on the threshold, peering into the half-light. A long-abandoned storage space seemed to stretch in front of them, shadows dancing in the corners where the light failed to reach. "Is it safe?" Alex whispered, scanning the room with caution. We need to find out, Clara replied, stepping inside. The air tasted stale but untainted, offering a strange comfort. Placing her hand on her heart, she urged them to follow, and they stepped into the musty darkness together. As they shuffled deeper, Clara's mind raced. Thoughts ping-ponged between their immediate safety and the cries echoing outside. But she could sense a shifting energy in her chest, something rekindling her hope. Here, in this hidden corner of the world, she felt a flicker of purpose, a call to action just waiting for the right moment to emerge. Suddenly, Jamie halted. Clara, listen. He pointed toward the far wall of the room where faint whispers danced like ghosts in the air. They were indistinct yet filled with urgency. Clara strained to hear, her heart pounding in tune with the muffled words. Was it another group of protesters seeking refuge? A hidden gathering, planning some next move? Hope began to blossom anew within her. Let us go, she urged, moving toward the sound. Each step felt monumental, echoing a larger determination. They were no longer just fleeing, they were putting themselves on the line, ready to stand alongside the others. Together. As they rounded the crates and shifted toward the sound, the whispers grew clearer, passionate, fervent, insistent. Then, the door behind them slammed shut, plunging them into total darkness, cutting them off from the chaos outside. Clara. Alex's voice squeaked in surprise. She felt the heat of his presence close behind her. We need to stay focused, she said, swallowing her own rising unease. We came here looking for strength. Let us find it. Yet, as the whispers drew them closer, an undeniable sense of dread washed over her once more. What awaited them in the depths of the gloom? Was the group an ally, or had they stumbled into yet another trap? At what cost would they find their voice in the storm? Clara took a deep breath, refusing to let fear cloud her intentions. What flickering truths lay hidden in the shadows, waiting for them to discover? The darkness enveloped them like a heavy quilt, stifling yet oddly protective. Clara felt her heart thumping palpably against her ribs, echoing the urgency she had tried to dismiss. She took a cautious step forward, the sound of splintering wood beneath her shoes echoing in the silence of the room. With each movement, the whispers intensified, creating a rhythm that matched her quickening beat. What if it's not friendly? Jamie muttered, his voice quivering with the weight of uncertainty. Clara could hear the thin thread of panic creeping into his tone. We have to find out, she replied, forcing a calmness she didn't exactly feel. We can't turn back now. As they moved closer to the source of the whispers, Clara's pulse thrummed with the mix of fear and hope. Each word was a rallying cry, a desperate plea from voices unseen. She could make out phrases like "stand together and our time is now." Then, light flickered from the far end, revealing silhouettes dancing against the walls. Clara's breath hitched. Were those faces she recognized? She squinted, trying to piece together the scene unfolding before them. Alex's grip on her shoulder tightened. Are we really doing this? Clara nodded, a wave of bravery surging through her. We are, she declared, her voice resolute. In that moment, the door behind them felt worlds away. As they stepped further into the light, she was hit with a wave of energy. The group assembled, perhaps a dozen people, stood huddled together, their faces illuminated by makeshift lanterns made from tin cans and flickering candles. They looked like warriors prepared for battle, voices rising in a passionate chant. Join us! Shouted a woman with fierce curls framing her face, her eyes ablaze with fervor. You're not alone. Together, we can make a difference. Clara felt the swell of emotion crash over her like a tidal wave. This was the spark she needed. The dread that had clung to her began to slip away, replaced by a rising sense of belonging. They weren't just three scared kids anymore, they were part of something bigger. What is happening? Alex asked, his bewilderment evident as he scanned the room, finally breaking free from his initial hesitance. A man, tall and broad-shouldered, stepped forward, his voice like thunder. We are standing against the injustices. The city needs to hear us. Are you with us? Clara felt everything shift. The chaotic sounds outside the sirens, the shouts faded momentarily. Here, in this musty storeroom filled with strangers, she finally felt the sacred pull of purpose. Yet even amidst the flood of new energy, threads of doubt tangled in her thoughts. Who were these people? How far would she and her friends need to go? As the crowd stirred, their chants growing louder, Clara's gaze flicked back to Jamie and Alex. They looked renewed, alive with a kindred spirit that had felt impossibly distant moments before. But as she met their eyes, Clara felt the weight of their next decision crash down. This was it, the moment the door swung both ways. They could either remain on the fringe or step through and embrace whatever lay ahead. Are you ready? She asked her friends, fully aware of the significance of her words. With breaths held, they stood on the precipice of a colossal choice that could redefine not just the night but their very lives. Together? Jamie whispered back, his chest rising with newfound embers of courage. Always together, Clara affirmed. But somewhere in the depths of her mind, an unsettling thought lingered. Were they ready for the true cost of standing up? With a thumping resonance filling the room, the group began to chant again, their voices a united force against the darkness outside. Yet Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the bigger storm was just beginning. What awaited them on the other side of this choice, and could they handle the truth that might emerge as they stepped over the threshold? Clara's heart raced as she took a step closer to the center of the gathering. She caught a glimpse of familiar faces in the flickering light, old classmates, neighbors, even the quiet barista from her favorite cafe. They were all here, united, and it made her feel both comforted and vulnerable. Jamie nudged her, his eyes wide with excitement and fear. This is crazy, Clara. But it feels right, doesn't it? Yeah, she breathed, swallowing hard. It really does. The tall man who had spoken earlier, his voice booming above the echoes, continued, we need every voice. Every story matters. No one is too small to make a difference. His presence was magnetic, pulling the crowd into a whirlpool of fervor. Clara found herself swept up in the tide, the energy buzzing around her like electric current. She could still hear the shouts outside the chaos that had brought them here, but now it felt distant, like a storm slowly drifting away. Around her, chants grew louder. The energy felt tangible, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. It was a call to arms, a demand for justice. The words resonated with every fiber of Clara's being. Who are we fighting for? The woman with the fierce curls shouted. For our brothers and sisters. For our children. For our future. The crowd erupted, a chorus of voices blending together, each individual story weaving into the larger narrative. Clara felt a tear slip down her cheek. This was real. It was no longer just whispers in the dark, it was a rallying cry for change, but as their voices soared, a flicker of doubt tugged at her mind again. Would they really make a difference? What if their efforts were in vain? She glanced at Alex, who stood with determination etched on his face. Jamie, too, was caught in the moment, his earlier hesitation replaced with passion. Clara. Alex called over the roar, his voice slicing through her thoughts. We need to share our story too. What we believe and why we're here. In that moment, Clara felt a pull deep within her. She knew she had to speak up. Let us tell them. She shouted, her voice fierce and steady. Let us show them why we're willing to fight. An electrifying hush fell over the crowd as they turned to her, a powerful wave of anticipation rolling through the room. It was a chance to voice everything she felt bottled up inside, to shed light on the struggles that had shaped her life. Together, she began, her heart pounding, we can change things. We can be the force that stands up against the darkness. But we have to be honest, it won't be easy. There will be risks, and sacrifices, but it's time we stop staying silent. The murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathering. Clara felt the strength of the group, the promise of unity. But her heart also sank at the realization of what lay ahead. What will we face? A voice piped up from the back. What if we fail? The question hung heavy in the air. Clara felt it like a brick in her gut, but she couldn't back down now. Failure is part of the journey, she replied, her voice unwavering. But we won't face it alone. Together, we can bring hope. Together, we can rise. And just like that, the room ignited again, voices lifting to the ceiling, echoing their resolve. But a gnawing worry twisted in Clara's stomach. What hidden challenges awaited them? Would fear and doubt loom larger than their dreams? As the chants filled the night, Clara glanced around, the faces of those she loved shining with fierce determination. But deep down, she wondered how long that fire would last. With each pulse of energy in the room, she realized one crucial truth: this was only the beginning, and the real fight was just on the horizon. What would happen when they faced the obstacles and sacrifices that lay ahead? Would they be able to hold on to their strength and unity when darkness threatened to consume them once more? Clara took a deep breath as the crowd settled into an anticipatory hush. She felt the weight of their collective gaze resting on her, and for a moment, doubt crept back in. Was she really enough to lead? Could her voice echo the passion swirling around her? Let us talk about why we're here. She steadied her hands. Why we care so much about our community. About each other. Her voice was quieter now, but the sincerity behind every word broke through the noise. A low murmur of agreement rippled through the gathering. She felt encouraged. There was an unspoken connection among them, a bond strengthened by shared experiences. She glanced at Jamie, whose hopeful smile bolstered her resolve. Recalling the countless nights spent worrying for her neighbors, the painful memories of faces she loved that had felt injustice, she sharpened her focus. I've seen our friends struggle, she continued, people losing their homes, children being silenced. Our stories deserve to be heard. We matter. The crowd erupted in agreement, fists raised high. Clara's heart soared. Each voice in the room didn't just uplift her, they intertwined, creating a tapestry of resilience. She felt the electric connection with her community, it was palpable and pure. But then came a gust of wind, rushing in from the outside world, reminding her of the chaos awaiting them beyond the safety of these walls. As the cheers grew louder, that same flicker of doubt flared up again. Somehow, amidst this raw energy, she began to see the challenges surfacing before them. Clara, we need to unite. Shouted Alex, the intensity of his voice slicing through the air. But we can't let fear dictate our actions. His words resonated with everyone around. Heads nodded, hearts pounding with shared conviction. They needed each other, not just as voices, but as families. What had happened to their sense of home? The bond they shared was more than just skin deep, it felt like blood running through their veins. Exactly. She exclaimed, feeling the tide rise again. We must remember that our fear is a choice. We can decide to act instead of crumble. And the more we stand together, the stronger we become. Fists clenched tightly, the atmosphere thickened with determination. But Clara's heart raced for another reason, too, deep within her, a spark ignited. What if they could really make change happen? What if they could shatter the silence that had covered their neighborhood for so long? A thought burst into her mind uninvited, a question both heavy and exhilarating. What would be their first step? Would it be a march through the center of town? A letter to their leaders? Or perhaps something far more daring? She glanced at Jamie, then Alex, awaiting their thoughts, knowing they'd paved the way for countless others before. We need a plan. Jamie finally shouted, enthusiasm bubbling over. We can't just be here today and fade away tomorrow. That was it. Clara's heart hammered in her chest. They needed a direction to channel all this energy. Let us create a committee to start planning. We're just getting our voices out here, but we need to sustain it. The crowd erupted into cheers again, clearly energized by Clara's newfound conviction. They were ready to stand with her, journeying into the unknown. The future felt bright, yet Clara felt a shadow linger. Could they withstand the backlash that was sure to come? As the cheers faded, she wondered if they were prepared for the fight from those who would resist their call for change. With every passing second, the urgency of the moment weighed heavier on her. What if they weren't as united when faced with real obstacles? What if their voices began to grow weary? The challenge ahead loomed like a storm cloud, but Clara knew one thing for sure: they would face it together. And whatever came next, it had to count. What if their unity could inspire others to join their cause? The road ahead was uncertain, but she wouldn't back down. For Clara, this was just the beginning. And as she looked across the gathering, one question lingered in the air: how far would they go together to make their voices heard? The sun rose high on the horizon, casting a golden light that spilled through dusty windows, filling the room with a warmth that seemed long overdue. Clara, now standing with Alex and Jamie in front of the assembled crowd, felt the electric excitement crackle in the air. Today was Liberation Day, the day they would rally their community not just to protest, but to unite for a better future. Clara took a deep breath, her heart thumping with a mix of anticipation and fear. "Are you guys ready?" she asked, glancing at Alex and Jamie, who each wore expressions of determination. They nodded, resolute. As they stepped forward, the whispers of their plans unfolded into shouts of excitement. Clara could feel the hope swirling, wrapping around them like a cozy quilt. "Today, we stand for ourselves and each other," she announced, her voice carrying the weight of everything they had experienced over the past few weeks: the highs and the lows, the fear and the courage. "No longer will we sit quietly while our community suffers." The crowd roared in response, each chant echoing the affirmations of their shared struggles. Clara watched as trust blossomed in the eyes of those who had rallied together with her, and she couldn't help but feel the fire ignite within her. This was their moment. Alex caught her eye. "We've got all kinds of plans," he shouted, waving papers like flags in the air. "Letters to our leaders, community meetings, outreach programs. We're going to build a network." Enthusiasm flooded through the spectators like waves crashing against the shore. Clara's heart swelled. With each plan they revealed, the crowd grew stronger, more unified. Jamie's face lit up as he took his turn. "And we want everyone to join the conversation. Not just here, but in every corner of our community." He pointed to pockets of people scattered among the crowd: vulnerable neighbors, hardworking parents, passionate teens, all voicing their stories in support of this cause. They were weaving a fabric of hope. The pact they forged that day would not fizzle out. "Not now, not ever." As the speeches rang out, an elderly woman emerged from the back of the crowd, her eyes glistening. "I've seen so many come and go. But this feels different. You can feel the change," she declared, and the crowd erupted into applause. Clara felt goosebumps prickling her skin. The realization that they were all part of something monumental sent shivers down her spine. Clara turned back to her two companions, leaping at the chance to harness this momentum. "What if we organized a weekend festival next month?" she proposed, excitement bubbling over. "Something where we can showcase our community's strengths and resilience. We can invite everyone: speakers, performers, families." "Yes!" Alex and Jamie shouted in unison, enthusiasm echoing Clara's dreams. The idea rocketed through the crowd, igniting glee like sparks from a fire. It was a chance to amplify their voices, to fill the streets with joy and celebration alongside their mission. As ideas flowed freely, Clara took a step back, soaking in this beautiful chaos. Yet shadows of uncertainty lingered at the edges of her thoughts. Were they truly ready to face the inevitable pushback? Clara shook the worry off, feeling a warmth spread within her heart as she gazed at the community before her. No longer broken by silence or fear, they were now a chorus of hope. The day unfolded with laughter, music, and heartwarming resilience. From standing together, they discovered not only the strength of their voices but the bond of friendship in their struggles. Clara noticed Jamie engaging with a little girl standing near the stage, her curious gaze filled with wonder. He knelt down to her level, and Clara felt a surge of affection. He had found his purpose. This is our future, she thought, her eyes sparkling with pride. As evening descended and colorful lights twinkled over the crowd, Clara found herself leading the newfound community towards the final moments of their festival. She looked at the faces around her, determined, hopeful, and united. Together, we are more than just voices, we are a family. We are the change we wish to see. Her words echoed, reverberating through the hearts of everyone gathered. Emotions ran high, and spirited applause filled the air, ringing loud and clear against the twilight sky. But even as Clara basked in their euphoric unity, a thought took root: change wasn't just about today. It was about sustaining the connection they had built. She had seen the power of courage, the impact of standing together against the tide of injustice, but could they hold on to it? As the sunset painted the sky in brilliant shades of pink and orange, Clara felt a profound determination settle in. They were just beginning. With flickers of worry spiraling back into action, she resolved never to let fear take the wheel again. "Let us do this!" Clara shouted, waving her hands to rally the crowd's energy one last time. "Let us take our stories, our voices, and change the world one step at a time." With every thumping heart and resonating cheer, Clara realized that while it would never be easy, they would always walk together. She could feel the transition rippling through her community. She felt lighter, unburdened by the past. And as laughter erupted from the crowd, she understood that liberation relied not just on words but on compassion, empathy, and the unwavering connection they had forged. In that vibrant moment, Clara found her truth: together, they would transform their worlds, one heart at a time, and so they did. As the final echoes of hope washed through their gathering, it was clear, this was just the beginning, and together they were ready to face whatever the future might hold. Make sure you subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let it know we're here for the change. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now, and don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.